Buddy, my name's Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. I'm moving aside from the football side for just a moment, as I have a former teammate of mine, Albertus Magnus, now doing great things as a head coach with the Norwalk Revolution 13 under squad, 13U, Mike Hughes. Mike, thanks for being able to come on, man.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time, so I'm excited to do this.
I won't lie to you. Thinking back to when we were in school, now fast forward, what, 6 or 7 years? I know you graduated a year after me. Just thinking, would we be sitting like on my sofa in a house, you, same thing, talking like we are on a podcast? I never thought this would be possible.
Exactly. You never know what's going to happen, and to just be here and see you doing great things has also been awesome. So I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate that, man. Same for you. I mean, you've done a lot, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I just kind of want to ask, like, as far as the coaching side, like, where did that was that something that was always kind of in you? I know you said you coached for about 7 years or so, right?
Yeah. So obviously, after I graduated, baseball's still in you so much, and us being pitchers, we're always looking at the game in a different way. Especially me and you, as great as it would have been to throw 90, we just didn't. So we had to learn how to pitch and how to get guys out. So I was always looking at it from a coaching aspect, and then I just got super lucky with getting in the coaching system in Norwalk with a guy who I ended up coaching with for 5 years. And then we went from there.
And you talk about being able to make connections, and it's huge as far as networking. Broadcasting is the same way, and doing this podcast, can't tell you how many people it's been great to be able to hear their stories and just network. I think it's also it goes with coaching as well. Being able, because of the game of baseball, you talk to people from all over. It doesn't matter what age, what state, sometimes what country. So for you to be able to make those connections at such a young age in your coaching career is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy who it was, his name's Jimmy Benicasso, and we started out in Norwalk Senior Legion, and he gave me the opportunity, and he didn't really have to do that. And once I was in there, I just, followed him for the next couple of years. And that's what it's all about, is who you know at this point. It's unfortunate sometimes. Sometimes it's good, but it worked out for me.
And you talk about starting out with the Legion team for Norwalk. And Norwalk, for the amount of years that I've been following, I played Legion ball, so I kind of followed it, but not until now where I'm like glued in. And I see how successful the Norwalk programs are in baseball and football and so on and so forth. And, just looking at baseball, there's so much talent in that area. And I can only imagine how it was for you your first year to see all of that in Legion.
So much talent. And in that first year for Legion, I learned a lot because I was only a couple years older than those guys. So it's a very fine line between, being cool with them and maintaining the respect. And that's something I've always kept with me as a coach, especially being young. But yeah, Norwalk is legit, man. And what's crazy about even, Revolution and Summer Ball is that we're still missing guys here and there. It's unfortunate that people around the area still are reluctant to see the success we've had over the past years. But we'll take who wants to rock with us, and we'll do our thing.
And you talked about the players who want to rock with you, and for the people that are willing to play for the Revolution. Now, something I didn't know that you told me later on was a lot of the players from the Norwalk team that won the state championship this past season for baseball were on that Revolution team. So for you, you must have been like a proud father to X amount of players.
Exactly. I mean, that's the big thing about our program, is that we provide big game experience that these other travel teams just can't do. I mean, we had them through 13, 14, and 15-year-olds. So the core of that state championship team was used to the big game. It doesn't get bigger than the regional championship, the World Series championship in North Dakota. So once they were up at the big moment in those single elimination games, they didn't care. They were ready for it, and they knew they were good.
I wasn't surprised that the leader of that was Alistar, the right-handed pitcher who's going to Siena. You actually were going to have him, say, "Hey, you should have him on," but I reached out before, and it kind of just worked that way. But
Hmm.
he's a different specimen when it comes to a pitcher, and I think just talking with him, and I mean that in a great way. Just talking
Hmm.
with him, man, I can see why. And he even talked about how much you had on him early on and that he probably would not be the pitcher he was today if it wasn't for your tutelage at such a young age.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words from him, and it was really a pleasure to see him and work with him as he was growing up, because at 13, he was a little immature. So once we started to work with him, I wasn't his, mechanical pitching coach per se. But once we were in games, I was his guy. So, learning how to pitch, learning the mindset and the mentality of, hey, something's not going your way, you got to bear down. And to see the pitcher he's become is just awesome, and he's going to have a great career going forward.
And you talk about kind of, you're not the mechanical guy. I mean, is that something that you always kind of were as far as the coach where you're, okay, I'm just going to be this one type? Or are you trying to wear different hats every day? Because as we know, the game of baseball, each day brings something that you can't prepare for regardless.
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot from coaches, whether it's good or bad. And one of the things I never wanted to do is be the coach to just say something just to say it. So obviously, if I saw, someone's mechanics were a little bit off, maybe his front side, maybe his arms lagging back, I would say it. But I feel like I've seen so much in the past of coaches just say something to say it. I think most of pitching is in your head. So maybe it's your rhythm's a little off that day. Maybe a 2-0 curveball gets you out of it. So I think there's plenty of things to get you that then mechanics would be second.
And we talk about the fact of the pitching side and kind of the mechanics and all that. Looking at the program and what you guys have been doing, are you big believers in kind of the weighted balls, the drive line, all that stuff? Because I know it's huge. Rapsodo, which measures spin rate and all that. Do you guys use that kind of technology, or is it something where you kind of stay away from?
Yeah, no. So the guy who runs our older program, he's like the really big lessons pitching mechanical guy, Connor Farrell. He does a great job, and he was Alistair's, pitching coach as far as that. So the velocity and all of that stuff, that's the guy to see.
Really? So what did like why I shouldn't say why, but how has he been able to make like because it's one thing because okay, if you and I were to look at what Rapsodo is, and someone was trying to explain to me all of the high big words that I can barely use, I would
Hmm.
look at them like, what are you talking about? It's one thing to show it, it's another thing to explain it. So how
Yeah.
is he able to make it so understandable to such a young group and even to yourself as well?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way as you. I'm still kind of learning and getting to know all of that stuff a little bit better. But I think that's something that we kind of, as they're younger, we start with the weighted balls. I love the shoulder tube. I got to order one. But then as they get older, Connor kind of takes them from there. He does a really good job on winter workouts, which is an important time in the off season. So I'm not sure exactly what he does, but I'm gonna start paying attention.
I was going to say you may want to because that's the kind of stuff that you talked about taking things from coaches, good, bad, or indifferent. That's something that could be taken and used in your own, especially however far you get in your career. That is something that you can carry with you and go back to. Because again, for we know football. I mean, you and I could talk football as well.
Hmm.
We know football coaches who typically are one kind of like Belichick. He's defense, not so much offense. Other times it's the other way around. For baseball, I feel like it's different. You kind of have to be on both sides because you're the manager, you're the head coach, you are overseeing everything.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And that's what's been a great adjustment is to just, head coaching this team is that it's everything now. It's not just pitching. So it's everything. And I'm learning every day, but I couldn't have had a better group to, break it in with.
Now, was this your first season as head coach with the Revolution?
First season as head coach. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to be the head coach. I kind of, as you probably, have noticed, I like to stay in the pitching lane. But once I had the opportunity, I knew this was a special group. We had some of them in the fall, but I knew I couldn't pass up the opportunity to head coach them. And like I said, it couldn't have worked out better.
As you were going through the games and the playoffs and all that, when did it kind of, when did it hit you that this team had potential to go as far as it did?
So to be so early in the season, I set 3 goals for them. I said, have fun. We'll get better as a team and get better individually, and we're going to go to the World Series. that's a wild goal for such a young and new team. But even then, I saw it with them. So early on, I saw it. But when I really started to see it is when we would just play regular season games and we would just keep winning. They would find ways to win. And what was tough about those games is that we had 15 guys. So we're subbing guys in and out in those games. So no matter who was thrown in there, we were finding ways to win. And that's really tough.
No, it is because, you think about the successful teams. I mean, you and I could go back to our days at school watching the Alberta's basketball team, as far as with Mitch and how they were able to win with so many guys, regardless if
Yeah,
it was the top player or the 14th player on the bench. And,
absolutely.
baseball is that same way where, yeah, you could win during the regular season with your stars. But when it comes time for the postseason, I mean, the Dodgers last year, they had so many, like Will Smith, the catcher. You
Hmm.
had, I mean, I could go on and on, but I'm trying to say. You need to
Yeah.
have guys who are, yeah, big name guys to get you to a certain spot, but you need the not big players, the average, the middle tier players who just do the right thing. You need them to kind of get you to that top, to that championship.
Yeah, so that's a great point, and it's a great example because we had a battle at third base between two kids, and it was very close. So the guy we ended up going with for states and regionals, and then as it got to the end of regionals and the beginning of World Series, we decided to make a switch, and the kid we ended up going with batted 700 in the World Series, and 7 for 10 he was. And it was just the perfect thing because he wasn't down. So often we've seen that at any age. And the guys who have been were on the bench, just great attitudes, and they were all ready if we needed.
How was that experience, man? Because I know, it was tough for us at school. We really didn't have an opportunity to kind of feel that. And it's a shame that we couldn't. It is what it is. We can't go back and change it. Stuff happens. But for you to kind of now have gone through it multiple times with the Revolution, and more so just looking previously to this past season, just talk to me about kind of just how was it
The bench aspect or just the World Series in general?
for you? Just to, because I mean, hey, you were interviewed by my guy from, I mean, I
Yeah.
know
Oh, okay.
the
Okay.
Velis, you
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
interviewed
Yeah.
by
Yeah. Yeah.
him,
Yeah. Yeah.
you were on the news, like all that kind of stuff. Like that's something that's like, that's cool, man. That's great for you.
Yeah, so, I had been to the World Series 2 times prior, and I didn't think any trip to the World Series would top those times, and this whole experience was, blew all of those times out of the water. Just, the group of kids is the first thing and foremost. To be with them and to ride with them, I mean, what we did in the World Series on the field was some of the craziest stuff I've seen on a baseball field in 20 years, but then what they were able to do off the field, I've never seen team bonding like that. My assistant coach, Matt Parlani, had him playing all types of games at the hotels. I mean, it was stuff that I was even shocked at. They wanted to spend the whole day with each other. They didn't fight. We had a rain out, and they were in the hotel, bit not the lobby, but whatever, just playing games. Like it was just so amazing, and we almost finished it too.
Almost didn't. It's a shame that you couldn't finish what you guys started, but there was a quote that you said, and it was on your Instagram, and I thought it was pretty cool. And you said, and I'm probably going to get the quote wrong, but basically it was like, I don't care what happens. You can only control so much. Just focus on what you have right now. Don't look in the past. Don't look in the
Yeah.
future. I thought that was a pretty interesting quote, especially coming from you, knowing you from when we were at school. I thought that was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, so we had 2 really crazy games up there. That quote was from, the quarterfinals. So single elimination quarterfinals. We're up playing the host team, Jamestown, and we're up 4-1 the whole game. We have to take our ace out because his pitch count hits the limit in the 7th inning. We bring in our number 2. We make a couple errors behind him. The score quickly goes 4-3. So now there's a runner on third base. We're up 4-3, 2 outs, 7th inning. And the kid's visibly upset, as he should have been, because we didn't have him in the field. But I went out to him and I pretty much said that. I said, listen, none of what just happened matters. When you get this out, when you get this kid out, none of that matters. And what he do, got a ground ball at third. We threw him out at first and we won the game. So that was insane. And then the second game, so that day we had a doubleheader. I mean, quarterfinals and semifinal World Series doubleheader elimination game. I don't know how we got screwed with that, but the second game we were down 7-1 to Wisconsin and came back and won 8-7 in 8 innings. And that game just, speaks so much to the heart these kids have. I've said it, heart isn't something you can teach. You either have it or you don't. And to be down like that and to not panic, one of the things we really preach to these kids is to have the same mentality, whether you're winning or losing. I think it's very easy to be, happy, let's go if you're winning. Anyone can be happy when you're winning. But what matters is your attitude when you're losing, when you're down, if you've had a bad game. So, we were down, we had the same mentality. We're like, hey, we're good, we're going to fight back. We started creeping back, had a 5-run, inning late in the game. And then, I said to my assistant coach, I said, now we're going to win this thing. And then we did.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that about, yeah, when everything's perfect, oh, everyone's happy, everything's going well, but you really see the true identity of somebody. You kind of see who they truly are when chaos. And,
Absolutely.
I like to compare that, and people ask me why I do, to the Cowboys with Dak. When everything was great with him, you saw what happened. They went 13-3. Now you sprinkle in some chaos. Dallas has not been the same. There's other issues. But basically what I'm saying is you truly see how a person is when things are not going perfect. And I think for the players that you're speaking of, your players have gone through that and see what they can do when things are not going perfect. There's a case to be made that if they end up in Norwalk or wherever they, end up as far as high school, they're going to be battle tested, and their coaches or whoever are going to be thrilled because they are going to be prepared for the highest and brightest moments.
Yeah, it's how you deal with adversity on the baseball field, but also in life. That's what we talk about in the post game huddle sometimes. Sometimes there's going to be a run around third, and it's not always going to be the line drive base hit that gets him in. Sometimes it's going to be, you foul off a couple pitches, you work the count to 3-2, and you hit a dribbler to shortstop and beat it out. So, you never know how it's going to go, but you just got to always respond to adversity.
Mike, it's great to be able to have you on. And I just want to ask you really quick, kind of what is the next stop for Mike Hughes?
Next stop, I'm hoping to get on a varsity staff. I mean, that's ideal. That's the goal. And then also keep rocking with these kids. They're 13 right now. It couldn't be a better time to rock with them to 14 to 15 and, keep putting in the work on the field, off the field with them and, reach our goal to finishing that #1 spot as we just came up #2.
Well, you better let me know if you find a spot at the varsity level somewhere. You got to let me know.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And listen, I applaud you for your success for local sports. I hope you keep it going. I love watching it. I love seeing it. So thank you again.
No problem, man. Hey, I appreciate it. Now, wrap things up in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. And I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.